I'm going to tell you guys something before I get started. You know, you see us up here nice and polished and looking dapper, calm, cool, and collective. But I'm going to tell you what, this is unstinking believable. Unbelievable. And no, she did not get her voice from her daddy. I want to thank you, Commissioner Seelig, Jane Forbes Clark, President Jeff Idelson, and the staff up here in Cooperstown. You guys have done an incredible job. The atmosphere is unbelievable here. I want to thank the baseball writers for electing me with this honor. Congratulations to Ron Santo and his family. Vicky, you are awesome. Great job. Congratulations to Tim McCarver and Bob Elliott. My mom and dad, Robert and Shirley, that's right. I tell her all the time she should run for mayor of Cincinnati. Everybody knows her. I want to thank you guys for your guidance, your advice, support. Dad, thank you for introducing me to the game, showing me the way to do it the right way. Mom, you were the driving force in the family. Auntie Vaughn. We were going to do something, we were going to do it right. You made sure of that. Thank you to my wife, Lisa. Thank you for your patience, understanding the sacrifices you made. Dedication to our family. Thank you to Brielle. JB, you told me I was going to get through this, man. My daughter Brielle, Shane, and Sember, thank you for understanding Dad had to be away in order to play this game. But you guys kept it together. I'm so proud of you. My sister Robin, Mike, Byron, Stevie, you guys are awesome. Growing up, you challenged me every day, one way or the other, regardless of what it was. We were playing a game, whatever it was. That was so instrumental in help shaping the person that I became, the competitor that I became. You guys are unreal. I want to thank all the other family members for coming up here. You can see it's quite a few, so I can't name you all, but thank you for coming. You guys have been so supportive through my days. Thank you. Tony Perez told me up here I'm losing time, so I better get to it. You know, I grew up in Cincinnati in the era of the Big Red Machine. Yeah, you know about it. Managed by Hall of Famer Sparky Anderson. Many of the members that I cheered for sitting behind me, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, Tony Perez. I grew up listening to Hall of Fame award winner Marty Brenneman in the radio booth. That's right. And Joe Nuxall. You know he's watching. I, like many other young players at the time, grew up dreaming about the honor to play for the Reds and represent the city of Cincinnati. Much of my success as a person and as a baseball player is a product of many influential people in my life working together, giving of their time, their knowledge, and themselves. Many of those influential people are of Latin descent, and to them, I say gracias. Gracias a las leyendas que me inspiraron a jugar a este juego cuando yo era un niño pequeño. Gracias a los grandes que yo admiraba cuando yo estaba creciendo. Rod Carew, Orlando Cepeda, Roberto Clemente, Luis Aparicio, Juan Marichal. Y un agradecimiento muy especial a mi mentor, Tony Perez, y mi ídolo, Dave Concepcion. And for all you people who don't know what I'm saying, I'll interpret it in a second. Gracias por darme la bienvenida, creyendo en mí, por enseñarme y me hace sentir como un miembro de su familia. Y a Roberto Alomar, durante mi carrera yo espero que algún día sea su compañero de equipo. Bueno, esto no es exactamente como yo querría que se pasara, pero finalmente, somos un double play combination. I just told Roberto during my career, I wanted to play with this guy so bad because I saw on the other side of the field, he was just that special of a player. And I just told him, finally, we're a double play combination. Gracias a los jugadores latinos en las grandes ligas y los menores que me ayudaron y los fanáticos que me apoyaron. Gracias a todos y respeto. Thank you to all the fans, all the Latin players, all the fans of the minor leagues and the big leagues. Thank you so much. So now back to English. I want to go back to the days of Silverton, Kinsale, and Madisonville. Played on some great teams growing up in Cincinnati. I want to thank many of the coaches, my dad, Robert Larkin, Mose Williams, Bruce Field, Hank Gillespie, Ray Lawrence, the ex-mayor of Silverton, Richard Hunter. Moeller High School. Any Moeller High School people in the house? I want to thank the staff and the leadership and the coaches, Jerry Faust, Ted Bacigalupo, Mike Cameron, Paul Smith. My teammates and the coaches at the Midland Baseball Organization, Summer League program in Cincinnati. Coach Papa Joe Hayden, his wife Lois, George Graff. They provided us an opportunity to travel and compete against the best talent in the country while still in high school. Thank you guys so much. So proud to have attended and graduated from the University of Michigan. I want to thank Bo Schembeckler, who's watching down on us today, who recruited me to play baseball. I'm sorry, to recruit me to play football. Yeah, I made that mistake too. He redshirted me my freshman year and told me that he was going to allow me just to play baseball. Occasionally, I'd call him while I was playing in the big leagues, and I told him that was the best decision he ever made as a football coach. He didn't like that too much. I wanted to thank Bud Middaugh, Danny Hall, many of my college teammates, many of who are here today, Jeff Jacobson, Kenny Hayward, Chris Gusto, DK Derek Kirk, Sanders, Ken Caminiti. My first college roommate, currently my agent, a good friend, Casey Close. You guys are here in the house. I appreciate you coming. You guys are classy. I appreciate you coming and being part of this. I want to acknowledge and thank Eric Goldschmidt, who was my agent during my playing days. Thanks for helping me navigate the twists and turns of my career, Eric. Thank you to Paul Seiler and Team USA, USA Baseball, Rod Dado, for giving me the opportunity to represent the country in the 1984 Olympic Games in LA. You know, it's certainly a dream come true to play for my hometown team. Almost a surreal experience. And I think equally impressive was the type of people and the quality of people that I came in contact with as a result of living out that dream. The Cincinnati Reds organization, the ownership, Marge Schott, Carl Lindner, I want to thank them for the opportunity. The current Reds ownership, the Castellinis, Williams, you guys are unbelievable. You're awesome. I want to thank you for allowing me and my family to still be a part of the organization. You know, they held a party for me last night, and we had to do a little impromptu speech up there with Bob Castellini. He's a pretty good speaker. It was fun. I want to thank the countless GMs that I played for, Bill Burgish, Murray Cook, Bob Quinn, Jim Bolden, and the current GM, Walt Jocketty. Many of the front office staff, the behind-the-scenes people, the personnel who supported me, throughout the years, Doc Krimchek, medical staff, Gary Wayhoff, traveling secretary. You guys are incredible. Gene Middett, longtime Red Scouts who believed me and drafted me out of high school. Also after my junior year in college. Gene, you've always been supportive of me and my family. I thank you for your friendship, your professionalism, and your patience and your persistence. I want to thank my first manager, Jack Lynn and Jeff Cox, the city of Burlington, Vermont, the Vermont Reds. I saw some people walking around here, Vermont Reds. The Denver Zephyrs, the city of Denver and Boulder, Colorado, while I was in the minor leagues. You know, when I got to the big leagues, the quality of people was unbelievable. The first family that I met was the Stowe family. In my opinion, year after year, the most valuable members of the Reds organization from the success of the ball club, as far as the players are concerned. Humility, professionalism, and patience comes to mind when I think of Bernie, Mark, and Rick and the job that they performed in taking care of all the players in the clubhouse, both home and visitor players. You guys have always been the best. I wanted to acknowledge you guys. You guys did an unreal job. You know, when I got caught up to Cincinnati, I had an incredible opportunity to spend some time with some outstanding members and outstanding mentors to show me the way, how to play, how to be a professional, on and off the field. They share with me some life lessons and polish some things that I would apply in my everyday life. You know, I played with some monumental figures in the game of baseball, and I'd like to acknowledge a few of those guys. You know it, Pete Rose. $4,256 of them. That's right. You know, Pete and I had something in common, obviously being from Cincinnati, and I thank him for sharing and helping me through some very rough times as a young player. I remember the day I got called up to the big leagues. I was in Denver, Colorado, had to get to Cincinnati, flying through Dallas-Fort Worth, flying through Chicago. You know there's weather in the middle of the summer, and it wasn't happening. Well, eventually I got to Cincinnati at 7:24, 7:35 game. Pete Rose is on his way out of the manager's office because he's been waiting on me all day to get there because I was a starting shortstop that day. So I walk in the clubhouse. Pete's walking out of his office, and he looks at me. He says, "Larkin, your first day in the big leagues, and you're already late." And I go, "Skip, I don't have anything." He's like, "Sit down." So he laughs. We share a few minutes. He asks me, he says, "You got any bats, any gloves, anything?" And I'm like, "No, I have nothing." He's like, "Well, what size bat do you use?" And I go, "Whatever size you use, Skip." "How about your shoes? What size shoe you wear?" "Those Mizunos, they look like they'll work." He says, "All right, here you go." So I'm thinking, it gets no better than this. First day in the big leagues, playing for my hometown team. Pete Rose, my manager. I got his bat. I got his shoes. I think Dave Parker gave me a pair of gloves. Eric Davis gave me something else. By the way, I didn't pay Eric for that on the monitor, but certainly we will be talking about compensation afterwards. I appreciate that, Eric. Well, the game goes. I'm sitting on the bench. I get a chance to pinch it. And I hit a ground ball to shortstop, man on third base, score a run, driving a run. After the game, I'm thinking this is just such an incredible experience. I sit down and I'm talking to many of the members of the media. It was pretty thick that day in the clubhouse. And Pete Rose just kind of patiently sat behind them. And as they all walked out, probably about a half an hour or so after the game, Pete walks over to me and says, "How was that?" I said, that was awesome, man." He talks to me about growing up in Cincinnati. He talks to me about the opportunity to represent the hometown, the responsibilities of being a Red, how to conduct myself in a professional manner. He spends, like I said, about a half an hour with me and finally asked me, They feel good in your hand, that bat? Those shoes, they feel good on your feet? I was like, yeah, bro, they were awesome. He's like, good, give them back. I said, what? He said, your stuff will be here tomorrow. Give me my stuff back. Now, I don't know if he knew or not, if he had foresight or not, but that P. Rose bat and the P. Rose shoes were not going to see the light of day because they were going home in my car that night. I guess that's what it's about, being a veteran. You know, but I want to just thank Pete for the opportunity. I wouldn't be in the big leagues if he didn't give me that opportunity. I just want to thank him for that. He beat me to the punch that day. But his words of wisdom and his support and him talking to me all the time. Thank you, Pete Rose. I love you, man. I idolized Dave Concepcion as a young ball player. Yeah. I try to imitate his player style. I often dreamt about meeting him one day. While I was up at the University of Michigan, the Reds came to Detroit, and they were playing the Tigers in an exhibition game. John Falk, who was the equipment manager at the University of Michigan, drove me down to the stadium, Old Tiger Stadium, to meet some of the ball players. As soon as I get to the stadium, Dave Parker, Cobra's here with his lovely wife, Kelly, the Cobra. Dave Parker, as soon as I walk into that clubhouse, grabs me by the hand and walks me right over to my idol's locker. And he says, Dave, you see this guy right here? This is Barry Larkin. He's from Cincinnati. He's going to take your job. And I'm saying, oh my goodness, this is not how I expected this to go down. You know, Davey looks at me, grabs my hand, look at my calluses and says, nah, his hands are too hard. He can't play shortstop. Well, Pops, you instilled something in me that day. It was about the confidence. I appreciate that. I remember that interaction with Davey. I remember that interaction with Dave Parker. I remember thinking, that's awfully assumptuous of this guy. And I didn't know the relationship between him and Dave Concepcion. But I thought it was a little weird and felt a little uncomfortable. But he showed a lot of confidence in me. I'll get to another story about Dave Parker. But Dave Concepcion, understanding that I was gunning for his job, understanding that I was from Cincinnati, he spent countless and countless of hours with me, preparing me for the game. I idolized Dave Concepcion as a kid, and when I got a chance to meet him, I thought that the actual thing and what I expected was going to be totally different. But I can honestly say that that interaction with him, that personal relationship with him, was even better than it was when I was thinking about eventually meeting my idol. He worked with me on everything out there on the field. The bounce throw from the hole, preparing for the game daily, whether it was taking ground balls at shortstop, or as I'm taking ground balls at shortstop, he would go to second base and first base so I could throw the ball across the diamond to get prepared for the game. Davey was there for me. Davey is a special, special individual. I appreciate you and I love you, Davey. Thank you, my idol. Thank you, Dave Concepcion. So many special people from Cincinnati. Buddy Bell, a native Cincinnatian. Buddy was my mentor while I was on the field and would give me advice, help me with positioning. He was really instrumental in shaping my perspective on how I was to handle success and failure in the big leagues. So one day early in my career, Buddy tells me, hey, I want you to come out early in Dodger Stadium and take a few ground balls. I'm like, okay, great. So we get out there. Jimmy Lett's hitting us some ground balls at shortstop. We take about 2 or 3, and Buddy tells Jimmy to go on inside. So it's Buddy Bell and I in Dodger Stadium. He walks over to me, he says, hey, let's talk. He says, you know, as ball players, we have such a unique opportunity. He said, we're going to see a lot of beautiful things, get a lot of great opportunities, and I want you to always take the time to step back from it, let everything slow down, and really appreciate the opportunity and keep things in perspective. He says, always remember where you come from and take the time to smell the grass. So I'm sitting in Dodger Stadium in the big leagues. I'm 22 years old. I'm like, yeah, this is nice. This is beautiful. He's like, I always want you to take the time to smell the grass. And I go, yeah, smog-free day here in L.A., beautiful Dodger Stadium. He says, I want you to take the time to smell the grass. You want me to smell the grass? Smell the grass. So I literally get down on all fours and smell the grass. And as I'm down there, Buddy says, now turn over. And I'm going, hold on a second, man. Something's wrong with this picture right here. And as I turn over, I look up in the sky. High blue skies, a few clouds. I see the rim of Dodger Stadium. And I just get in almost like a trance. And he says to me, pretty big, isn't it? And I go, yeah, it is. It's enormous. I can see the rim of the stadium, the wavy canopy out in the outfield. And he says, how big do you feel? And I said, I feel like an ant. I feel so small. He says, that's right. He said, that's how small we all are relative to the grand scheme of baseball. Don't ever, ever lose that perspective. You know, that was my introduction to the game of baseball. And many people ask me why I am the way I am today. Many people ask me, don't I wish that I played in a different era, the era of now when baseball players are making so much money? And I go, no. I'm glad that I came in the time that I did. I'm glad that I had the opportunity that I did at the time that I did because I was able to interact with these type of quality people. Antonio Perez, Tony Perez, Papito is what I love to call him. Tony, his beautiful wife, Patuca, Victor, he didn't want me to announce him, but Vic, sorry. Eduardo. Guys were awesome. These guys were like a second family to me when I was in the big leagues. I used to love spending time with Tony because not only did I idolize him, but Tony's a talker. You might have to interpret what he says sometimes, but Tony is a talker. And Tony always used to love to talk hitting. So I would always stick around Tony because he'd talk about hitting. He'd talk about situational hitting. I remember Tony trying to convince me to relax with runners in scoring position. He tried to convince me that it was the pitcher that was in trouble when there was a runner on third base with less than 2 outs, not the hitter. And I had trouble understanding that concept. But Tony would talk to me endless hours, countless hours. And if you had any time or if you get a chance to ever spend a little time with Tony Perez, one thing you'll notice that Tony does not sugarcoat things. He doesn't mix words. Tony gives it to you straight. Even through that heavy accent, you understand Tony's not beating around the bush. So one day we were talking about situational hitting, and Tony was pointing out some flaws in my swing and told me that he thought that I needed to make a few adjustments. And I recall telling him, Tony, I'm a little uncomfortable with some of those adjustments that he suggested that I needed to make. And in Tony Perez style, he said to me, he said, you want to be comfortable? He said, go home and sit on the couch. You ain't getting paid to be comfortable. You're getting paid to hit. So get over it. Tony, thank you for your tough love, my man. And I don't know if there was a more complete player in the 1980s or 90s than Eric Davis. Eric the Red Davis. Not only is he a good hype man, a good pitch man, but early in my career, Eric invited me out to L.A. After my first season with the Reds. He didn't know me very well, but he invited me out to L.A. He opened his home to me out in L.A. And being from Cincinnati at 22 years old, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to L.A. I'm going to go have fun, off season, just really enjoy myself. Well, the next morning, when we're out there at 7 o'clock in the morning running up and down the hills in Woodland Hills, California, I understood then that's a little bit different ball game now. As a young player, Eric set the tone for me, the standard for me. He demonstrated the work ethic and the effort, the commitment that was required of me to be successful at the big league level. He showed me how to respect others, how to appreciate others, how to treat teammates. And I appreciate you, Boogie, and I appreciate everything you did for me as well as the family. Thank you, my man. I mentioned the Cobra earlier, Dave Parker, and the confidence he had in me. Well, in every player's career, there's a defining moment. There's certain experiences that we refer to, and we reflect back on that experience, and we say, you know what, I believe that really turned things around for me in my career. Pops and Boogie one day created one of those defining moments for me. I talked about them challenging me and players challenging me during my career. Well, literally, Pops and Boogie, they invited me out to the batting cages late one night after a ball game was over. And I thought that was unusual, because normally I saw guys getting their work in before the game, but I thought I'm struggling, so I guess this is as good as any time to go out and work on something in the cages. Now, in Cincinnati at this time, the batting cages were underneath the stands. It was cold, concrete, and not very well lit. Well, there were no lights on hardly at all out there, and I was told to come out there and take a little extra batting practice. At least that's what I thought was going to happen. So I walk out to the cages, and all I see is this 6'6" monster of a man and Dave Parker and Boogie sitting out there. You see, they noticed that I wasn't playing with the urgency and the confidence that they knew I had within me. And I can't repeat publicly how they encouraged me that evening. But let's just say after that encounter, that in-your-face ultimatum, that defining moment, that I committed to playing with that urgency and the passion that led me down to this path to the Hall of Fame. Pops, Boogie, once again, thank you. You know, I had some great years in Cincinnati. I got a chance to play on some great teams with some pretty special people. The Big Red Machine, 75 and 76, they certainly set the standard. It was all about winning championships, and in 1990, we did just that. We won that championship. Wire to wire, knocked off a team that many had crowned champion before we even started in the Oakland A's. They had a pretty good center fielder sitting behind me, Ricky. Eck. Pretty good. But we had some pretty good players, too. How about Jose Rijo? Danny Jackson, Tom Browning, who's here, I saw him. The Nasty Boys. Eric the Red, Billy Hatcher, Mariano Duncan, Spuds McKenzie. In his first year managing the Reds, Lou Piniella. Yeah, Sweet Lou. On his first day of spring training, Lou put the team on notice. He told us he didn't like losing, said he didn't accept losing, and told us we were not going to lose. Well, 162 games later, during the regular season, A hard-fought National League Championship Series against the Pittsburgh Pirates and the sweep of the Oakland A's, the mission was complete. We played hard, we played fair, and we represented the great city of Cincinnati with great pride and respect. But I'm going to tell you something, the championship, it wasn't just ours as players. It was yours too, the fans, the Reds fans. Yeah. I love you Cub fans too. I'm not leaving you guys out, because you guys were instrumental as well. You all were such a big part of motivating us and supporting us. I was so happy to be able to share and celebrate that championship with the fans from my hometown and fans from across the world. The passion, the pride that year was infectious, and I want to thank you. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your pride, and thank you for caring. We love you too, my man. You know, as a player, I would often look in the mirror and question myself. Am I doing enough? Is there more? Could I do something a little bit different? Something better? Can I try harder? Is this the right thing to do? Yeah, I asked myself that question because I took a lot of pride in representing not only myself, but my family, the Reds organization, the city of Cincinnati. You know, I admit and I realize that I wasn't always the easiest person to deal with. I acknowledge that at times I acted out. I made plenty of mistakes and didn't always handle situations as best I could. I humbly appreciate your acceptance of me and my shortcomings and your continued support for me and my family. And for those questions I used to ask, well, no longer do I have to ask those questions anymore. The answer is forever written on my plaque in Cooperstown. You know, every player wants to be successful. Every player wants to win. Every player wants to feel appreciated and looks for validation. Well, my inclusion in the Hall of Fame is the ultimate validation. And I want to thank you all for helping me along the way. Thank you very much.